Makes me easy to find on Spotify and Amazon and all of those. If you want to go check out my album, that would be really cool. If you don't want to check it out, that's cool too. Before I get started with the entire, where's that echo coming from? Oh,
Somebody's watching you live on somebody's phone.
okay. It's freaking me out. I don't think it's me. I don't think it's on my phone. But I hear it. Well, that's the tablet we're doing we're filming it from. Yeah, I heard it over here too. Oh, did it? Okay, maybe it is. Maybe it's the volume on that. Weird. Anyway, before I get started with telling you my story, is it maybe the computer upstairs? Weird. All right. Before I get started telling you my story, there's a couple of resources you might be interested in. It's a book called Crypto 101, Deep in the Heart of Texit by my friend James Dumaine. You can find it on Kindle. You can find it on Amazon. I'm not sure where all else is marketed. The electronic version is only $3. It's worth a read. He's not going to get rich by Texit coin people buying a $3 book, so you're not going to enrich him, but it might be worth a read. I haven't read it myself. I had several friends tell me it was really good. There's merchandise in the vault. If you want Texit coin hats, Texit coin shirts, Texit coin bags, any of that stuff, Shauna's got a whole bunch of them back in the vault. I think she's here tonight. Is Shauna back there? So if you go back there, she'll be glad to sell you stuff. She can take Venmo. She can take almost any way. Matter of fact, she'll take Texit coin if you want to use it, especially right now. Here's how you log into the Wi-Fi if you want to do that. I think that's there. These meetings, these are meetings for you to bring, if you're a minor already, these are meetings for you to bring someone to learn about what we're doing. We're not going to do a bunch of training and stuff. We are going to start doing some training. These meetings right now are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And they're all just like this one. Doors open around 6. The doors are usually open before 6, but the food is available around 6. Usually it's something like this, some sort of snack foods or something. We had subs last night. I do Tuesday and Wednesday. Other people do Monday and Thursday. And then my friends DeCarlo and Daryl do Saturday morning. They come in at 10. On the Saturday morning, we have donuts and coffee. At 10 o'clock, once your prospects have left, from the rest of the meeting will be actual training. So we'll start teaching you about things like the cold storage wallets, some questions you have once you're mining and don't know what to do from there, how to buy coins, how to set up DEX trade accounts. We'll be doing that on Saturday mornings, probably around 10:30, 10:45, unless I miss my guess, because we're pretty good about knocking it out in about 25, 30 minutes as far as the introduction part goes. So here's how the introduction part goes. As Frank said, I play in a band. One of the guys I play with is a guy named Eddie Allen. Eddie Allen has been working with Bobby Gray, who started Texit Coin, for 15 years. They used to do gold and silver together. So Eddie tells me at a gig back in April of 2024, hey man, if you give me $1,000, you might make some money, or you might lose your $1,000. We don't know. So that was such a strong pitch, I gave him $1,000. They mailed me some stuff. I put it in a file and I wrote Texit on it, and I hid it in my briefcase because I did not tell my wife I had spent $1,000. Now she's hunting beach houses, so I think she's okay with it. But for 4 months, I didn't know what I had because I didn't know anything about a marketing program or anything like that, and that stuff's really not the important part anyway. But about August, I got COVID, and I was quarantined and bored to death. So I pulled out that stuff they'd mailed me, called Eddie, and he told me how to see my wallet. And I looked in my wallet, and there was $6,800 in there. So I was pretty surprised. So I got on the phone with Eddie, and I said, is that for real? And he said, yeah, that's real. I said, that's really cool. I said, well, expect some phone calls, because I got some buddies who might be interested in this. Now, I'll get around to that part of it in a second, but what I realized when I saw that $6,800 was that I didn't know what I had my hands on. And what it was a guy named Bobby Gray, who lives in McKinney, who owned a mint. And basically what they did was mint coins. If you've ever seen the Ron Paul coin, the commemorative coin for Ron Paul, he minted that coin. If you've seen the Bitcoin coin, he minted that one. As a matter of fact, he minted these, which I meant to bring with me when I came over there originally. Now, but he sold the mint and doesn't make these anymore. He actually has someone else make them. What happened was he felt like we needed to use gold and silver as an honest currency because the dollar inflates. The dollar's worth less today than it was 2 weeks ago, probably. It changes that quickly. So he wanted communities and downtown areas to start using, and local people to start trading using gold and silver. And the way he likes to tell it, he was riding his gold and silver horse and buggy when the Bitcoin rocket went right by him, left him behind. So this was around 2012 or 13. So he started studying what Bitcoin had done and what other current cryptos were doing, and he decided Bitcoin had the right idea because they mine the coin. They don't just make up a coin out of thin air. They have computers that mine the coins and make a certain number of them every day. In our case, we make 90 to 100,000 a day. The other day it made 105. It was really cool. I got some extra coins that day. But those computers are mining these coins all day. And so he looked into the Bitcoin model. He took a look at what they had done. And what he decided was they missed the boat on becoming an alternative currency because they were so busy worrying about valuation and making the Bitcoin worth more by buying and selling them on these trading platforms that they kind of lost sight of the idea of using them as currency. So he decided to make a utility currency for the state of Texas. And what he decided to do was, instead of having big investors come in and put their money in, he decided to have people like you and me invest in it or put our money into helping to build the mine and buying what I've decided I'm going to start calling a stake in the mine. And each stake is $995. We've now sold almost $1.5 million worth of these stakes. And people are mining all over the state of Texas, all over the U.S., and there's some overseas. There's quite a few in Australia and New Zealand, actually. And what happens is, because we all own a piece of the mine or a stake in the mine, we all get a certain number of coins every day. And that's what had happened. I had sat there not looking at my wallet, and it had made coins every day, and now they were worth a few cents. So I had quite a few of them. If you understand that, and understand that's what we're doing, that's really the crux of why we're here. I don't like to talk about what it's going to do. How many people in here already know we're going to miss a goal they set for February? Yep, we're going to miss the path to 16 because that was predicated on us having a 40% sales increase every month as we were having early on. We're not having a 40% sales increase anymore. It's not growing that fast. Why is that? Partly because it's Christmas time. People aren't putting money into stuff like this. They're buying G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. But I fully expected to take back off in January, did last January. Last January was really when my business really exploded. But all that being said, that's all you really need to know about what we're doing. You can put your $9.95 or more into this, and you're going to get a piece of the mine. It's going to make coins every day. It's designed to go for 135 years. I like to say if it quits at 134, give me a call. If I answer, be scared, because I'm 190 years old at that point, 196. Anyway. And that's all you really need to know. I don't like to talk about, again, what it's going to do. I will tell you what it's done so far. The coin started out at 2.8 cents. At one point, it got as high as $7. Right now, it's at around $2. We had a bunch of people who got around $3 or $4 and decided to start selling their coins off, which is okay. It's a market economy. They have a perfect right to sell them. That's still a huge increase. About a 700% increase in 7,000% increase in a year or year and a half. So the coins have gone up in value as we've collected them because we're mining them. each coin goes up in value. What I can tell you is a single mine that I bought in August of last year, which has no added mine power, it's still a single 100 mega hash stake in the mine that I bought in my wife's name, has about $23,000 worth of coins in it right now. My friend Pat bought in at $9.95 back in April of this year. In July, he already had $1,500. I can give you example after example. I've got a friend sitting in here right now that paid off his house and his car already using Texit coin. Now, he did the referral part of it. He had a little extra coins, a few more than you can get from just buying in, but all you ever have to do is buy in. And I don't want to say anything else till I say this. If you're sitting here tonight and you're thinking, I ain't telling anybody about this, I don't do that sort of thing, that's fine. You can buy in, you can have your mine, you can have your percentages of mine, you can make your coins for the next 135 years. You can take the gamble with us that we're going to be able to build this thing and make it one of the big boy coins where it might be worth $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a coin. Or you don't have to do that even, but if you want to join us, if you're willing to, like I was, put $1,000 on the baccarat table and see what happens. That's all you really have to do to be involved and help us do what we're doing. Now I'm going to talk about the marketing plan, but I always like to say this before I talk about it. If you're not interested in referring people, you never have to do that. I think I've said it 3 times now. I'm going to say it one more time. If you don't want to refer people, you never have to refer anyone, period. I've got a bunch of people in my group that have never referred anybody. I've got a handful of people, they've referred people, but I actually closed them. And he talks about all kind of stuff that I don't understand, blockchain and mega hash and all that. All I know is it's a machine that makes money and we all own a piece of it. We've got 2 phases of it now. There's going to be phases all over the state. The 3rd phase is almost complete, and it's actually completed in Victoria. They just got to get the computers to talk to the network. They're still working on that part of it. They're fixing to start installing the one in Conroe. There's a phase here in Mansfield, and as a matter of fact, if you'd like to see the Mansfield phase, it's about 10 minutes from here. You can see what's going on. Not only will you see that phase of the mine, you'll see a ton of stuff that we've already bought to build the next phases. It's already bought and sitting in a warehouse, just waiting on us to move it out. So that's all you really hear about. I'm going to talk about the marketing plan, but understand this marketing plan is going to go away when we hit 1 million stakes. When there's 1 million people or 1 million seats on the rocket with people in them, then we're done. We'll have raised around $100 million. Around $1 billion. There's some that you earn, so it's not quite that much. We've raised millions of dollars. Hopefully, the plan is to have about 200 million left over. How many people have seen billboards? And how many people have seen the advertisements in the airport? Right? How many? I haven't heard this, but apparently there's radio ads. Had a guy, one of the guys I sponsored, he heard a radio ad. He got on Google and searched Texit coin, and somehow my number came up. It doesn't do that now, but it did it that day. Yeah, and I was like, man, that needs to happen again. But anyway.
Figure out how come you own 64 to 65% of the members in Texit coin. They don't know why.
That was the only one I've sponsored off a radio ad. But that was cool. That was nice that, and he called me. He thought he was calling the corporate office. I've actually had other people call it thinking they're calling the corporate office and complaining about stuff. So it's not always that great to have your number pop up. But that's what we're doing. That's how it works. That's where the money is going. It's going for things like for building the mine and for things like advertising, et cetera, et cetera. Matter of fact, with $200 million, we could easily have the blimp over the Super Bowl next year, whenever we finish selling this thing off. The sky is the limit. And the more brand name you have, the better it goes. People start using this as a currency in the state of Texas. As we get more and more liquidity on the market, we're going to even be better off. So that's essentially what we're doing. I am going to talk about the marketing plan. When Eddie signed me up, he did not tell me there was a marketing plan. He just told me him and some friends were doing this thing and I could give him $1,000. So I did. What happened with me was in about August when I got COVID, I knew that some of my buddies, when I found out I had $6,800 in there, some of my buddies were going to be mad if I didn't tell them what I'd done. and how I was making this money. So I started calling them up and telling them what we call a Southern fairy tale. Everybody knows how a regular fairy tale starts, right? Once upon a time. A Southern fairy tale starts out, y'all ain't gonna believe this. So I started calling them, and the first thing I said to them was, I'm calling you because if this happened to you, I'd want you to tell me. Well, those guys all started saying, well, how do I do this? So I put them on the phone with Eddie. He'd answer questions. They'd sign up. So I get a call from Eddie. He says, hey, man, you're getting more mind power. I said, really? He said, yeah, you told some people when they signed up, they give you more mind power. I said, oh, that's cool. Give me more mind power. Make more of these little coins that are 6 cents a piece at the time. So he calls me back a week later and he says, hey, because I'm still calling people. He says, hey, man, how do you want your bonus? And I said, you didn't tell me there was a bonus. He said, well, I don't like it. It's kind of like Mary Kay or Amway or Avon or something. They call it a binary thing or something. He said, I just don't like the way it works, but they do give you money for referring people. I said, well, how do I get it? He said, well, I can either send it to you. And he named a bunch of different cryptos because at the time they would pay your bonus in almost any kind of major crypto. And he said, you know, if you want me to, I could just get him to give it to me because he works in the office, and I'll just sell it to you. And I said, well, how much is it? Because I thought if it was $150, I'd just tell him, buy some more of those Texit coins and throw them in that wallet and let's see what they do. He goes, it's $1,000. And I was like, well, sell it to me. So at that point, I'm playing with house money and have been ever since. I haven't put a dime in over that $9.95 that I didn't either earn in a bonus or trade in for a bonus. And the reason I got that bonus was because we have a point system, and every time you match 3 points on each side of your group, you get 9 points on each side is 3,000, or you can trade that back in for another mine, or 2 mines or 3 mines. The reason they cap it at 9 points is so that guys like me sitting up that have hundreds and hundreds of points every week, because my group's now 32,000 people, aren't going to be making 100 grand a day. It's just silly to not cap it off. And also, that means that anybody in this room can make the same $3,000 in a week that I make, because my points are going to cap out at 9 on each side. I can go into more detail if somebody wants it, but quite frankly, that's not important. What's important is, do you want to take this leap of faith? Do you want to try and gamble some money to see if you can be a part of the next big crypto? And I really believe that we are the next big crypto, but I've been in it a year and a half and I've seen a lot of cool stuff. I've enjoyed helping build. One of the side benefits is you get to learn about crypto, because I didn't know anything. I had heard of Bitcoin, and I'd read an article about the Chinese building a Bitcoin mine when I gave Eddie $1,000. Everything I know now I've learned through Texit coin. Last two things I like to say whenever I do this little jibber jabber through my story. If that number is going to make you miss the car payment or the house payment, or have to eat ramen noodles for the next 6 months, or your kids are going to get coal for Christmas, don't do this. It's just not smart. It's a gamble. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not a turn your money into $50,000 in 6 weeks scheme. It just doesn't work that way. It's not a Ponzi. DeCarlo doesn't put his money in and they send it to me. It doesn't work that way. You're not going to make a ton of money fast, but you may double or triple your money in a year. It's done that. It's done way more than that in the last year and a half, and I don't see any reason why it won't do it again. But I can't guarantee that. I can't promise that. It's always going to be a gamble. The other thing I like to say is, if you're a person of faith, you should pray about this before you do it. If you're an atheist, throw as much money as you can at it, because your life's a gamble anyway. Thank you, guys. Anybody got any questions? How many people here are not miners already? How many people don't own? Did I just talk to a whole room full of miners?